In Hindu paper today, we have some important aspects and some regular aspects. Regarding Riyan International School murder case, Pradyumna Thakur, a 7-year-old boy, got murdered in the school. Initially, police arrested school bus driver Mr. Ashok Kumar. Later on, 2 days back, they again arrested 11th class student of the same school. And now it was told that the 11th class student himself voluntarily confessed the offence. The 11th class student himself voluntarily confessed the offence. The article, the editorial, is critical about CBI and police investigation on this issue. And the editorial also mentioned the recent Arushi Talwar murder case. In the Arushi Talwar murder case, till date, there is no direct evidence of how that murder has happened and who is the basic culprit. The lower court 3 years back convicted parents, Arushi Talwar's mother and father, based on circumstantial evidence. And now the High Court acquitted them. Acquitted Arushi Talwar parents because there is no strong evidence to convict them. In the same way, it was told that in high profile cases, in the cases where big wigs are involved, like Sheena Bora case, Arushi Talwar case, Priyadarshini Mattu case, in most of the cases which actually received media attention, which attracted media attention, CBI and police are under pressure to conclude the investigation very fast. CBI and police are under pressure to conclude the investigation very fast. And one more angle here, which is not touched in the editorial, is in 2006, there is Soli Sorabji report on police reforms. In 2006, there is Soli Sorabji report on police reforms. In that report, investigation wing in the police should be separated from law and order wing. Investigation wing in the policing should be separated from law and order wing so that investigation can be foolproof and fast. But still, even that recommendation has not been prioritized yet. So, media sometimes is playing havoc with the investigative system. Media is conducting trial in most of the cases. Media is deciding who is the culprit and who is the accused and who is the victim. Everything media is deciding. Media is not allowing the police or CBI or the courts to have a fair trial all the time. This is one of the other angle which the article have not touched. So, Riyan International School murder case, Arushi Talwar case, Sheena Bora case, Priyadarshini Mattu case, lot of cases, even earlier in Andhra Pradesh, Ayesha Mira case, lot of media attention have come into that. Next important article today, Zimbabwe stakes. Zimbabwe stakes. Very important article which was in news. In Zimbabwe, from last 37 years, we have a leader called Robert Mugabe. And all the young people now knows Zimbabwe means Robert Mugabe. He led a Marxist guerrilla movement earlier and came to power in Zimbabwe. Now he is the president of Zimbabwe. From last 39 years, 37 years he is in power. From last 37 years he is in power, Robert Mugabe. Now he has removed his vice president. He made his wife Gracie Mugabe as vice president. And in Zimbabwean Africa National Union, JANU PF, Zimbabwean African National Union, PF, Patriotic Front, is a political party. It is enough on this. Next important article today is, the lead article in Hindu is, you have Saudi Arabian Crown Prince. The article is about Saudi Arabia, internal and international politics. In Saudi Arabia, what are the internal politics and what are the international politics? There are different perspectives here. The Crown Prince, Mohammed bin Salman, the Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman have arrested 11 officials recently under corruption charges. The same Crown Prince is condemning Salafi Wahhabi movements. The same Crown Prince allowed women to drive cars for the first time in Saudi Arabia. He allowed women to drive cars for the first time in Saudi Arabia. And as you all know, his father came into power, came as a prince, came as a king of Saudi Arabia 2 years back after the death of King Abdullah. In 2015, King Abdullah died. Then the present king have come into succession. And he is the son of the present king. He controlled all his brothers, cousins, everyone. 11 of the officials got arrested. And more importantly, as we all know, Saudi Arabian economy is dependent on oil. Completely dependent on oil. The Crown Prince Salman now is trying to diversify the economy, not only from oil, but also he wanted to enlist many other things into the economy. Saudi Arabia should not completely depend on oil economy, and in this perspective, he has issued a vision statement, Vision 2030. In this perspective, he has issued a vision statement, Vision 2030, 2030. To an extent, he looks very progressive. But the problem is, whether he is really progressive or whether he is trying to command the entire Saudi Arabia and Arab world politics is a big question. Some say he is trying to command. Some others say his measures are progressive. But beyond women movements and beyond this particular giving women the power to drive their cars, he has not given any signals that he is going to help women in any way. So we have to wait and see whether his moves are progressive, anti-corruption, women liberation, or to develop some command, to have some command in the internal issues in Saudi Arabia. He is trying to do that. Apart from these internal issues, there are certain external issues also involved in this. As you all know, Saudi is a Sunni country and Iran is a Shia country. Traditionally, Saudi and Iran are against each other. Traditionally, Saudi Arabia and Iran are against each other. And second thing here, almost the Sunni countries now are against Qatar because Qatar is supporting Iran in a way. Now Saudi is also trying to condemn Qatar. Recently, as you all know, Lebanese president resigned. Lebanon president resigned. And it is also said that the Saudi Arabian prince is involved in this resignation. And now Lebanon and Saudi are going to combinedly condemn Iran. They are going to condemn Iran. This is one other important aspect. Next important thing here is, apart from Iran, Lebanon and Qatar, you have Yemen. From last 2 years, Saudi is involving in Yemen's affairs. From last 2 years, Saudi is involving in Yemen's affairs. In Yemen, there is a problem called Houthi rebels. There is a rebellion group called Houthi, Houthi. In Yemen, there is a rebellion group called Houthi rebels. According to Saudi Arabia, these Houthi rebels, are being supported by Iran. So Saudi formed a coalition and trying to attack Houthi rebels and trying to dissuade them from following rebellious activities in Yemen region. All these issues shows that the Crown Prince is taking drastic steps internally and internationally, particularly in the Arab world. And let us see whether he is going to be successful or not. And more importantly, his age is 32. His father's age is 81. And the Naif and other princes, it seems that they were under house arrest. And if situation continues like this, as far as my prediction goes, Saudi will become weak rather than becoming strong. Saudi will become weak in future rather than the country becoming strong. Whenever country have internal dissensions, internal problems, whenever any country have internal dissensions, internal problems, it can never become strong internationally in history. Very rarely it happens. So let us see whether Saudi will become strong or weak in the near future. But things are moving very fast in Saudi. Next very important article today is regarding tree cover in India. Very important article today is tree cover and India. Here 3-4 aspects which are very important. One is bond commitment, bond challenge. India now took it as a challenge to restore 13 million hectares of degraded forest area, degraded land, and to increase it into better forest area, better tree cover. And in addition to 13 million hectares, India is also doing for 8 million hectares more. So there is an urgent need to India to increase its tree cover, not just forest cover. It has to increase more and more tree cover. First point is tree cover. Forest cover means dense forests, increasing the forests, all the things. Tree cover means even in the village common areas, even in the sidelines, even through social forestry, we can increase tree cover. As we all know, in 2015 Paris Promise, in INDC, Intended Nationally Determined Contributions in 2015, India said that it is going to have carbon sequestration, extra carbon sink of $2.5 to $3 billion. How do you go for carbon sequestration? Only with the increase of tree cover. You can go with carbon sequestration only with the increase of tree cover. 28 to 34 million hectares of tree cover is needed in India today. 28 to 34 million hectares of tree cover is needed in India today. This is very important. Apart from that, in the article, the other discussed various models. State government of Madhya Pradesh in a single day have planted around 66 million saplings. 66 million saplings. even Uttar Pradesh. As you all know, Telangana government started Haritaharam. State governments are taking many initiatives. We can emulate that. But the problem is, we are making plantations. But what type of quality? But who are maintaining them? What species selection we are making? Every government is thinking about planting a tree. But what type of trees we are planting? What type of species selection we are making? What type of qualitative plants we are actually implanting? And who is maintaining that? How many plants are living? How many plants are dying? 2 years back, government have launched an ambitious project called National Green Highways Policy. Very important. National Green Highways Policy. On the either side of the roads, we have to plant trees. 2 years have passed, but no much improvement in that. What we need is political will. What we need is state participation. More than political will and state participation, what we need is community participation. In this community participation, very beautiful model is given called WADI model. WADI model. Very important point. In community participation, WADI model is given. What is this WADI model? In 2009, NABARD, National Bank, Agricultural Bank for Agriculture and Rural Development, NABARD have started a program called WADI. In order to make the tribals to live in the local areas, in order to make the tribals to get some livelihood, to retain the tribals in the pristine pure areas, tribals are allowed to grow trees and tribals are allowed to use the products of the trees. This is WADI model. In Brazil also the similar model is being followed. In Brazil, local people are involved in tree development and they were allowed to collect the fruits of the trees or the products of the trees for the 5 years period. In the same way, in Nigeria also similar model is followed. Why don't we involve local people in India to have local commons? In local common areas, we should involve local people. Not only that, we should also allow new things like social forestry, encourage things like social forestry. Always we should not deal with only forest cover, we should also deal with tree cover. Apart from this, in this article, there is a concept called ROAM, ROEM, Restoration Opportunities Assessment Methodology. ROAM, Restoration Opportunities Assessment Methodology. ROAM, Restoration Opportunities Assessment Methodology. This methodology is being followed in more than 40 countries. In order to conserve the environment, conserve the trees and forests, what type of restoration methods we are following, what are the better opportunities we have, all will be assessed through this ROAM. ROAM. So, ROAM is the finest methodology which is adopted by more than 40 countries to have restoration of tree cover, forest cover and various methods. See, afforestation is a method, increasing the tree cover is a method, protecting the entire ecosystem is a method, protecting the biodiversity is a method, all these methods. This particular article, for a wider cover in Hindu Today, you can write very good essay on this, even in your essay answer sheet. You can cut and paste this. Very important article. This article is along with data and examples. When you write UPSC answers with examples, you will get very good marks. Like Brazil example, like WADI model, like Niger example. You can give very good examples This particular article got lot of examples, you can use that. For a wider cover article is very important for exam. Apart from that, you have a debate today in Hindu. Apart from that, you have a debate today in Hindu. The debate is, does recapitalization fix NPS? Does recapitalization can fix NPS? Recently, recapitalization was announced. 2.11 lakh crores. Recapitalization was announced for 2.11 lakh crores. As you all know, 2 years back, when Raghuram Rajan, the former governor of RBI, at that time he is the governor of RBI, he said, one journalist asked him a question, what do you support, recapitalization or cleansing the banks? Raghuram Rajan told, when I was asked to choose to recapitalize the banks or cleanse the banks, first I will opt for cleaning the banks, cleansing the banks from its bad loans. From its bad loans. The entire debate today is that whether recapitalization of banks solve the NPA problem. Whether recapitalization of banks can solve the NPA problem. See, there is no proper link between recapitalization and solving the NPA problem. The reason is, though banks have shortage of funds because of NPAs, to give credit, to extend credit, banks right now have shortage of funds for NPAs. That is right. Because of NPAs, it has shortage of funds. That does not mean that recapitalization is a solution for the problem. That does not mean that recapitalization is a solution for the problem. See, problem is something, you are addressing the problem in a different way. You are addressing the problem in a different way. First thing, government thought introduction of Bankruptcy Insolvency Code 2016. Introduction of Bankruptcy Insolvency Code 2016 will solve the problem. But it is premature to expect. It is premature to expect that Bankruptcy Insolvency Code suddenly will solve the problem. First, we have to identify top NPA accounts. We have to target the top NPA accounts. Then only we can cleanse it. We can cleanse the banks. And as you all know, right now our banking system is suffering with, the biggest problem is non-performing assets. The biggest problem is non-performing assets. How to solve them? Already we have RDD BFI Act 1993. Already we have RDD BFI Act 1993. Recovery of debts due to banks and other financial institutions Act 1993. Recovery of debts, DEBTS. Recovery of debts due to banks and other financial institutions Act 1993. Through this act, debts recovery tribunals were constituted. Through this act, these were constituted. Apart from that, we have SURFACE Act 2002, Securitization and Asset Reconstruction and Enforcement of Security Interest Act 2002. We have asset reconstruction companies, and we have Bankruptcy Insolvency Code of India today. Apart from that, in the recent economic survey, there is a suggestion for PARA, Public Sector Asset Rehabilitation Agency. In 2016-17 economic survey, we have a proposal for PARA, P-A-R-A, Public Sector Asset Rehabilitation Agency, also called as bad bank. So better to resolve NPA issue in a different format rather than trying to resolve it by recapitalization, because recapitalization might bring complacency. Now banks no more think about NPS, though they may not completely work on NPS. Number one. Number two, already many committees suggested that If a manager gives a loan, he should be responsible for the recovery of the loan throughout his career. But our transfer policy in the banks, very regularly managers get transferred and they are not responsible for the recoveries of the loans which they have disbursed, and they are not responsible for the collaterals which they have verified. This pattern should be stopped. The manager who gives the loan should be the person who should recover the loan if there is a default. Should be the person who should recover the loan if there is a default. Think about it. A very important aspect. In 2018, in prelims or mains, NPA issue, non-performing asset issue, might be a question in prelims or mains. As you all know, when principal or interest is not paid for 90 days in a loan account, when a principal or interest is not paid for 90 days in a loan account, it is called NPA. It can be called as NPA. In NPA, there are three types: substandard, doubtful, loss. There are three types: substandard, doubtful, loss. From 90 days to 12 months, substandard. More than 12 months, doubtful. When the loan is written off, it is loss. Substandard, doubtful, loss. From 90 days to 12 months, it is substandard. More than 12 months, doubtful. When the loan is written off, it is called loss. And you all know presently there is a buzzword called twin balance sheet syndrome. There is a present buzzword called twin balance sheet syndrome, where companies are unable to pay because of international depression, because of recession, because of losses. Banks are unable to give loans because NPS are not recovering. On the one side, companies are at loss. On the other side, banks are at loss. On the one side, companies are at loss. Their company's balance sheet is bad. On the other side, bank's balance sheet is bad. This is called twin balance sheet syndrome. Apart from that, there is one more concept that was discussed in the article, that is joint lending. Joint lenders. The problem is most of the big lenders, most of the big people take the loan not from single bank but from 2-3 banks. As you all know, in Vijay Mallya's case, 13 banks were involved. Consortium. This is called consortium of 13 banks. In the same way, in most of the high profile cases, 2-3 banks, 4-5 banks are involved. This should also be reduced. This should also be reduced. Okay, bank should see collaterals and proper credit worthiness of the customers before disbursing the loan. Okay.